the chief of prosecution office is named Byun Chan-woo, and also some invited professors have been detailed in this news story. Counseling from the Department of Counseling Psychology, we've been indebted to Professor Kwon Ha-soo, and also specifies some of highlight about the message heralded by the symposium. And also, I have one more event in this week that I took a role as a panel to discuss the master thesis dissertation proposal. A summary of dissertation presented by master and doctoral students in this university, and I have given some instructions to shape the list, the piece of research in any more improved and any purpose to refine the point of discussion, and consultation have been expressed to improve the quality of a research piece, and many other professors also provided a useful comment, suggestion, and view to complement the perfection of research piece. So the grade student who actually very competent to produce any meaningful research piece, and so professors could have a benefit in the professional research. They would cite dissertation or piece of master's article, master thesis, to enlighten their point in the professional article. Of course, it will not be often in cases, however, it could possible. So the competence could be demonstrated in earlier stage of research life. My point is to maximize your experience of a symposium and the panel discussion which is involved with your research research plan or questions. So that would be a precious opportunity to widen your perspective, and also may enable more complete, a more comprehensive understanding about background information, or could lead you to the reduced point in highlight and focus about your core dealings, as so very helpful, I consider, but on the condition where you have some time and some flexible budget, and also more in span according to your personal schedule. So I also have an interest to recall upon the previous lesson. So please consider your situation and contingencies, and consider to incorporate the attendance plan of a symposium or the public forum available to your cheap expense. So please explore the opportunity near near to your house or and your residence, and that would be helpful in my expectation. And also, let us consider the substantive aspect about the session. You will see the website titled Gwangju Child Center, Sunflower Child Center in English understanding, and what actually a great public commission in my awareness to give any solution for the suffering child or any defaulted families. Actually, the family system is basic to sustain the society and community. It is very unique kind of ingredient to manage any democracy in national governance and others. So grassroots force to sustain economy and politics of nation. So the law or legal system on the family is very uncertainty. It comes very distinctively against other normal arena of a public concern. So we could have be complex normally, and might be due or right from interdisciplinary way of approach. So I consider psychology, sociological perspective very consequential to shape any adequate legal system which governs the family affairs or matters. As you expect, the symposium has been oriented to deal with a criminal response against intramural family violence or sexual abuse, and professors point would tilt on that aspect. However, we also have some useful instruction from social psychologists, clinical or counseling psychologists, and also some statistical deliberation about trend and wake to be developed of that case, and some point to be distinct between localities, and useful information has been valued whether around this velocity and some reliability as related with our concern and interest. And especially I like to make a highlight about some cost-effective research realized by Professor Bohany. And your lesson would be disposed. It is titled Gwangju Local Prosecution Office, and as we see, it provides routine deals of a public notice, what actually a chief prosecution officer would have a feature to communicate with local people, and also include many important information. Well, actually, public relations quite demanding, and we once have some interest in FOIA, and the law mandates disclosure of public information. So this section will be drawn to shoot the kind of a tendency, and also the section will provide some bulletin that the people launch their request of public disclosure, and also it provides information of a history of this organization, and the figures who would be responsible for this office have been uploaded, and also we'll have some important legal information pertaining to our local law and legal system, and some public ads or announcement will be ready to your search and availability. And also ombudsman and others very useful, and you will refer to the previous article delivered in the class. Actually now it is a very the age of information, informative society, and the Constitutional Court of Korea is one example, and could be finely matched with the Supreme Court of the United States. And you'll see in the article some of sectional development, which is very powerful and expositive about reporting the Supreme Court cases. So what, for example, the United States Supreme Court is at the apex of federal court system, as you see, and having both appellate and limited original jurisdiction. The court is the court of last resort. Opinions produced by the court are available in several sources in both print and electronic format. In print, there are 3 reporters and loose lip service, the public court opinion. The U.S. reports published by Government Printing Office is the official publication of court of the decision, as you know, and commercial publications also in your ambit, produced by Thomson West, and the Bureau of National Affairs publication, United States Law Week, loosely, also published the Supreme Court opinions, and several reputable internet sites provide access to court opinions. These sites include the official U.S. Supreme Court site, Cornell's Legal Information Institute, FindLaw, Flight, and OAS. As we have discussed, it is very expositive, and that would be in good tense in comparison with the Korean practice. We now also have similar extent of exposure, and public disclosure is very in scope. So researchers would be in depth much to this case. And exciting enough is that the website named OAS, managed by Northwestern University Journalism School, has provided kind of a audio materials, so the kind of a argument in oral format has been available to your reference. Very interesting, and that project was supported by the National Endowment for the Humanities. So oral arguments made to the court was provided in audio format, provides access to blogs and other current awareness resources. And historical and pictorial information is also available at the OAS site. A virtual tour of the U.S. Supreme Court, including selected justice chambers, is available. Photos, paintings, and biographical information are provided about each justice of the court since its selection. So you experience perhaps some imagery from imposing portrait or others. So please develop your research experience, practical and sanguine, to yield any best result, effective result. Very thankful to this kind of free exercise. So you'll find in the booklet distributed to the audience of symposium last night. Please find the article of a Professor Bohanian. So he has some introduction in part 1. And actually in part 2 you'll find some precious background information about child sexual abuse and the empirical evidence. And the professors pointed to some some hyper culture of society. So his point is interesting. That we have to be honest about terms and any revelation of the phenomenon. So actually it is generally a force that we see a known stranger would be user perpetrator. Incest instead would be more dominant, and they actually psychological and cultural barriers would actually prejudice any more effective solution in terms of public and legal attention. So the intrafamily abuse should be revealed of its exact identity and the share of explanation about this issue. And also he charted some important transformations and development, which includes public disclosure, notification orders, and the ankle GPS tracking system. So the Korean legislature is well-meaning and very responsive to create any plausible solution against the challenges. Nonetheless, his point is gone in more depth about its aspect. What I now make some point about cultural denial of the problem of the intrafamily child sex abuse. How do you know this proposition or criticism? The tragedy of intrafamily child sexual abuse is severely disturbing, and although it is sometimes unearthed, it just as quickly buried away. And he also cited important scholars in this area of concern. For example, the theory of Sigmund Freud have been imported to strengthen his argument, and also very useful to have some what a advanced series, kind of social psychologist, as I've said. Let's consider, for example, availability heuristic, and also what is the point of inculcation. The phase probability neglect. Under this view, statistics tend to lack persuasive influence on the public, which interprets life situations in a rich manner, assigning importance to such considerations as whether a risk is involuntary suffer or especially dreaded. On this account, sexual victimizations of women and children qualify as particularly compelling catalysts. This is so despite the reality that the prototypical strange danger circumstances informing public understanding of the stress posed do not statistically warrant equivalent concern. So often the general public would tend to make the phase of ambiguous. They would receive in their own way. There is a point raised by social scientists in their theory. That means a resilience to eradicate the fundamental wrongs, what kind of causes embedded in this issue. And he also explored the scope of American response. In some cases, he illustrated the ABA measure, and also he discussed the case laws pertaining to the incest or incest crime. And basically, it is the notion of lawyers that the intramural family affairs is domestic in nature, which means it falls beyond the reach of legislation or public policy. So the American way of response would not be remarkable at its first impression. It could be progressive to reform and respond with the challenges. Beginning in the 1980s, new legislation focused on parents who molested their children, breaking the tradition of using incest statute for these cases. This trend coincides with a brief period of intense media attention on cases of family sexual abuse, with victims appearing on television shows such as the Oprah Winfrey Show. But this media attention was short-lived as the public grew tired of the attention to these emotional crimes, and soon thereafter most news reports began to focus again on the more sensational and detached stories of child molestation by strangers. So he cited the American Bar Association's National Legal Research Center for Child Advocacy and Protection, entitled Recommendations for Improving Legal Intervention in Intrafamily Child Sexual Abuse Cases. He also refine his suggestions in any persuasive way. I find it very powerful. That could have many potentials to be considered or possibly incorporated into new list of bills and others. One point to be raised in some differing perspective is that the legal response is not a unique solution or panacea to resolve all the difficulties or challenges involved in this case. So it is the kind of context about fostering, caring the child, and kind of status to be approached in subtlety to prevent or foster a due condition and also affordable family and others. So how do you suppose it is true in that context? So basically eclectic through a multifaceted concern to respond with any kind of evils, social harms, any effective. Okay. How do you find your final project to be pursued with this instruction? I suggest to make every effort to be neat and effective, cost-effective through the completion of research. Thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in next class.